All right, so we've got a stack of articles here all about astigmatism. And honestly, I'm kind of ready to go full-on detective on this whole thing.
Yeah, it can feel like a bit of a mystery, can it? Especially if you're dealing with like the whole blurry vision thing.
Totally. Like, what's the deal with those weird starbursts I see around lights sometimes? Is that astigmatism too, or am I just, like, special?
Well, that could definitely be a sign of astigmatism. It's not just about things being blurry, it's really about how your eye is processing light.
Okay, see, now you've got me intrigued. So we're not just talking about needing stronger glasses. There's like a whole light-bending adventure happening in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know how we usually think of a normal eye like a basketball, right? Perfectly round, light bounces evenly.
Yeah.
Well, with astigmatism, imagine that basketball is more like a football.
Okay, a football.
It's got that kind of oblong shape, so the light doesn't hit everything the same way.
So instead of focusing nice and neatly on the retina at the back of my eye, it's like bouncing all over the place.
Pretty much. Think of it like projecting a movie onto one of those bumpy inflatable screens instead of a nice flat one.
Oh, I get it. So all that blur and strain and like weird halos around lights, that's my brain trying to make sense of a messed up picture.
Exactly. And how off that picture is depends on the severity of your astigmatism, which is where those diopters come in.
Right, the diopters. One article mentioned those, but honestly, I kind of skimmed over that part.
Basically, diopters measure how strong the astigmatism is. The higher the number, the more correction you usually need.
Like units on a ruler, but for wonky eyeballs.
Pretty much. And speaking of wonky eyeballs, did you know there's actually more than one type of astigmatism?
Wait, really? I thought it was just like astigmatism, plain and simple.
Nope. You've got corneal astigmatism, which is the most common, and that's all about the shape of your cornea, that front part of your eye.
Okay, makes sense.
But you've also got lenticular astigmatism, which is all about the lens inside your eye.
So two potential culprits for blurry vision. Speaking of culprits, one article mentioned genetics being a factor. Does that mean I can blame my parents for this?
You could try, but it's not quite that simple.
Uh,
It's not about inheriting the exact shape of their eyes. It's more about inheriting certain genes that influence how your cornea develops.
so, like, my parents might have passed down a predisposition for football-shaped eyeballs?
Something like that. There's actually a gene called PDGFRA that's been linked to corneal curvature.
PDGFRA sounds intense, but it's not just about whether your parents needed glasses. It's way more complicated.
Way more. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Some people are born with astigmatism, but others develop it later in life.
Wait, seriously, you're telling me I could just wake up tomorrow and suddenly need glasses because of astigmatism? How is that even possible?
Well, it's usually gradual, but things like eye injuries or certain eye diseases can actually change the shape of your cornea over time.
Whoa, really? Eye surgery causing astigmatism. Talk about insult to injury. See, this is why we need these deep dives. You never know what you're going to learn. Okay, so we've got all these potential culprits, genes, injuries, other eye conditions. But how do eye doctors actually, like, diagnose astigmatism? How do they know it's not just me being, bad at reading the eye chart?
That's where those eye charts and all the those funky machines come in.
Yeah.
Remember those diopters we talked about?
Yeah.
It's all about measuring those and figuring out where exactly the light's going haywire in your eye.
So those tests aren't just about whether you can read the tiny letters. They're like mapping out the crime scene of your vision.
Exactly. So a standard eye exam, you've got that classic visual acuity test.
The one with the big E at the top.
That's the one. That gives them like a baseline of how clearly you're seeing at different distances.
Okay, so that's just like a general sense of how blurry things are. What about like actually figuring out the astigmatism?
Well, then they usually bring in the refraction test. That's where they have you look through that machine with all the lenses. Which is better, one or two?
Ugh, that game. I always feel like I'm guessing.
But it's not just a guessing game, though. They're actually figuring out the right lens power to correct your vision.
Including any astigmatism.
Right.
Okay. But there was another one that those articles mentioned, autorefraction. Is that like the high-tech version of the lens game?
Basically, they use like light waves and sensors to measure how light bends in your eye.
Sounds fancy.
It is pretty cool. It gives them a more precise starting point for your prescription.
Okay, way better than those clunky old machines. Although there was one that sounded seriously futuristic, corneal topography, was it?
Ah, yeah, corneal topography.
It sounds like something out of Star Trek.
It kind of is. They basically create a 3D map of your cornea's surface.
Wait, so they can actually see the football shape, so to
Yeah,
say.
they can see all the little irregularities and how steep the curve of your cornea is.
That's wild. Okay, so let's say they've done all that, they've analyzed the crime scene, and the verdict is you've got astigmatism. Is there even a way to like fix it at that point?
That's the good news. Astigmatism is incredibly treatable. And your stack of articles, they actually listed out a bunch of different options.
Oh, good. Because I was kind of hoping there was more than just carrots and celery sticks for good vision, you know?
Don't worry, it's a regular buffet. We've got your classics like glasses and contacts, and then things get a little more interesting with a LASIK and Ortho-K.
Okay, lots to unpack there. Let's start with the basics. Glasses and contacts, those are like the reliable sidekicks of the eye world, right?
Definitely. For most people, they're the first line of defense against astigmatism.
And they work how again?
Well, they basically counteract that weird curve of your cornea or your lens, if that's the issue,
Yeah.
and redirect the light so it hits your retina the right way.
Right, they're doing the work my football eye just can't be bothered to do. But what about LASIK and Ortho-K? Those are the more intense options, right?
I mean, they're usually for more severe cases,
Yeah.
or maybe for people who, just don't want to wear glasses or contacts.
Okay, so not for the faint of heart.
Right. LASIK, for instance, they use lasers to permanently reshape the cornea.
Lasers and eyeballs, what could go wrong?
It's actually been super effective for a lot of people. But it is surgery, so
Not a decision to take lightly. What about Ortho-K? One article mentions special contacts you wear at night.
yep. So Ortho-K uses these rigid gas permeable lenses that you wear while you sleep.
Okay.
And they basically reshape the front of your cornea so you wake up with clearer vision.
Wait, so you're saying I could potentially ditch the glasses during the day just by wearing these special contacts at night?
It's pretty cool.
It sounds too good to be true. What's the catch?
Well, the effects are temporary, so you have to wear the lenses every night.
Oh, okay. So not a permanent fix.
And it's not for everyone. Like if you've got certain eye conditions, it might not be suitable.
Makes sense. So we've got this whole spectrum of treatment, from simple to surgical. But let's get real for a second. If someone's listening to this and they're thinking, maybe I have some of those symptoms, what should they do?
Simple. Don't wait. Make an appointment with your eye doctor.
Easy as that.
Early detection is key.
Yeah.
The sooner you get diagnosed, the sooner you can find the right treatment and protect your vision, long term.
It's so easy to take our vision for granted. Speaking of which, all these articles focus so much on the how of astigmatism, but I'm curious about the why. Why are some corneas more prone to that football shape in the first place?
That is a great question. And honestly, it's something that researchers are still trying to figure out.
So, like, what are some of the leading theories out there? Why do some of us end up with these football eyes?
Well, we know genetics play a role, right?
Yeah.
But it's not as simple as like inheriting an eye shape directly. It's more about inheriting certain tendencies, I guess you could say.
Okay, so my parents might have passed down like a predisposition for a football-leaning cornea, but it's not a guarantee.
Exactly. It's way more complex than that.
Yeah.
Environmental factors seem to play a big role too, actually.
Really? Like what?
Well, there's some interesting research about how all the near-work stuff we do, like staring at computers and phones all day, might actually be contributing to a rise in astigmatism, especially in kids.
Wait, seriously, so all those hours I spent glued to my Game Boy, those could be coming back to haunt me now.
It's definitely possible. It's not like a direct cause and effect,
Mm-hmm.
but it shows that, lifestyle factors can make a difference.
Wow, I would not have thought. What else?
There's another theory about eye rubbing, believe it or not.
Wait, like rubbing your eyes when they're itchy? That can cause astigmatism.
It sounds crazy, I know.
No, I mean, I do that all the time.
Well, if you're doing it constantly and like really vigorously, especially as a kid, it can put pressure on your cornea.
Huh, who knew?
And over time, that can potentially change its shape.
You really do learn something new every day. Okay, so it's not just one thing. It's like this whole combination of genes, environment, maybe even some bad habits.
Exactly. It's complicated. But that's what makes it so fascinating to study,
That's true. And I guess it really highlights how important those eye exams really are.
Totally. It's not just about getting a prescription for glasses. It's about understanding your own eyes, and making sure you're doing everything you can to keep them healthy.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
This was fun.
It was. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. If you're listening and you have any questions about astigmatism or any other eye-related mysteries, don't be shy.
We're always up for a challenge.
Exactly. And until next time, keep those questions coming and keep exploring the world with open and hopefully clear eyes.